When did constant stress, disconnection, and survival mode become something we just accept as normal? Let me ask you something. When did this become normal? The pace of life, the pressure people are under, the constant noise, the emotional weight so many people are carrying every single day. People being overwhelmed, normal. People feeling disconnected, normal. Living in survival mode, normal. And no one really stops to question it because we've adapted to it. We've learned how to function without it. But adapting, that doesn't mean it's right. And it doesn't mean it's aligned. It just means we've been in it long enough and that we've stopped seeing it clearly. And that's what I want to explore with you today. Not just what's happening on the surface, but why we've come to accept it in the first place. Because the moment you begin to question what feels normal, you start to notice something deeper, that there's what you see in the world, and then there's what you feel underneath it. And those two don't always match. Keep listening. Welcome to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. If you're loving our videos, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. I'm your host, Peter Magic. So if you're someone who questions things, who feels things deeply, who senses there's more going on beneath the surface, then this episode's going to land, because in the last episode, we started to uncover and started to look at all the conflict and everything that's playing out through the world right here, right now. There's things that are going far beyond, surface level, beyond what the human collective perception is at a baseline level right here, right now. And so it is more of a battle of human consciousness, a battle for your energy, for your attention, and that is shaping the human baseline collective perception on the planet, which is, contributing to the physical manifestation of where things are right here, right now in this current timeline we're in, right? Based on the human collective consciousness, the level it's at a baseline right here, right now. So what we spoke about is how attention is constantly being pulled in different directions and how that shapes perception. But today, what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to take that one step deeper, because it's not just about what we see, it's about what we feel, right? What we sense, and why so many people are experiencing but don't yet fully understand, right? Because people are starting to become more attuned to, more aware of things beyond what they just see playing out in front of them, right? So there is that level of awareness is expanding on the planet, right? And this is why we're seeing a lot more conflict. That's why we're becoming more aware of things that were deeper beneath the surface. There is things that now are playing out through that conflict, because our level of awareness is expanding on the planet. So that baseline, as it continues to rise beneath the surface, we start to become more aware. And what I say is, at a surface level, we start to become more aware of things that are playing out. And then what we naturally do as human beings, we start to question that. We start to, not just accept what we're being told through media, through whatever the, perception and narrative that is playing out through, whether that's political, whether that's through all the social media platforms, on what people are, talking about. Like there's far more deeper things that are playing out, and it's far beyond just physical. And this is kind of where I want to start to expand to in this episode, because there are people on this planet, like I mentioned in the last episode, that are planted here like seeds. There are people on the planet who are deeply more attuned to. They're here experiencing the world. They're more sensitive to that. And there are people here that are neurodivergent, who are autistic, who have an ADHD brain. They have a different way in experiencing this world, which means in the world we're in right here, right now, it's a lot more challenging for those souls on the planet. But those souls are the change makers, because they're here to mirror what's out of alignment on the planet. And because they're more deep thinkers, deep feelers. They're more in touch beyond what they just see playing out in front of their eyes, right? So they're not only aware of certain patterns and cycles that are playing out through their own experience, they're starting to notice more playing out through, say, their relationships, other people. They're noticing there's a shift taking place, and it's not just physical, it's energetic. It's, and we're going to start to go more deeper into this now. Okay, so this is a word that I really hate that's in the human vocabulary, and that is normal. Because how many times do we hear that word normal? And when it comes to this world, nothing that is playing out right here, right now is normal. And normal doesn't actually mean aligned. So whatever we've learned to adapt to in this world, from the moment we're born into this world, all right, we are trying to change something about ourselves in order to fit the mold of what normal is meant to be on the planet. So what I want to start to talk about is, we're all born into a world that is already operating in a certain way. We start to absorb it, the behaviors, the stress, the emotional patterns, the pace of life. And over time, what starts to happen is it becomes normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy. It doesn't mean aligned. It just means familiar. And when something is familiar long enough, we stop questioning it, right? So many people are living in survival mode, but don't even realize it because it's not new, it's inherited. And this is a generational thing, because what the previous generations have normalized based on what they've accepted when they've come into the world, they just accept it as normal, and they allowed that to continue to play out. What this has contributed to is, again, like I mentioned, is that human baseline perception. And that perception is formed by all the belief systems, all the things that we've normalized and what we've absorbed and what we've embodied and made a part of our truth. And so do you not think that the next generations, what starts to be mirrored to them, do you not think that they're going to accept that as normal? And in this world, we are purposely taken in a certain direction to accept whatever we've been told as normal. Systematically, this is just the way it is. And if you don't start to question what is in front of you, if you don't start to go far beyond what you just see in front of your eyes, beyond what is playing out, you're not going to get in touch with a deeper sense of yourself, which means you're not going to be able to feel into what is really playing out deeper beneath the surface. And the reason so many of us are in survival mode, the reason why so many neurodivergent souls, people who are not only more sensitive, who experience in the world more in depth, the deep thinkers, the deep feelers, people who are autistic, have ADHD, all of those people are struggling the most on this planet right here, right now. And they're struggling the most because they've learned to adapt, to cope, and to survive, to fit into the mold of what this world has deemed to be normal. And as you can see, what is playing out right here, right now, is because more and more souls are waking up. They're learning to see within themselves what is out of alignment from the inside. And so what starts to happen is when they can see that within themselves, they then see that through their relational patterns. They then see that, whatever environments, workplaces, wherever they go, and they're starting to notice more things, which means that then they start to naturally question what is playing out in front of them. And the deeper people go beneath the surface, the more they start to notice, actually, this isn't normal. The trajectory and timeline the human collective consciousness has been going on is being gradually getting to the point of right here, right now. Look at all of the conflict and everything that's happening out in the world, is because those old ways of being and operating has gotten us to the point now where we've got to start to really pay attention to what's happening within us, and all of the energy around us, do you not think that it's because, we're so out of alignment from the inside out, and there's so much more stress that we're all carrying. We're all carrying the load. And those who are deeply sensitive, who are autistic, who have an ADHD brain, they have learned to adapt. But in that adaptation, they're living out of alignment in this world. They're being someone who has learned to adapt, to cope, and to survive, but they're not living in alignment with their own operating system, with how they're meant to be in the world. And they're the ones that are constantly in survival mode and, struggling with dysregulated nervous system. And yes, they might notice small things, but to shift out of that it's a challenge. It's a struggle in the times we're in right here, right now, because, we've been asked to do more. We're being asked to do more to break out of what we're experiencing. And so many of us who are deeply attuned to things far beyond what they can see, well, us who can sense things, who have the ability to, think critically, who have the ability to question things, have the ability to have a deeper sense of feeling and connection and empathy and be in touch with more that is playing out in the world. And for myself, I know that as I've gone down this healing path over the past 5-6 years, that, personally for me, it's been absolute hell. But I know in the difficulty that I've been moving through and I've been experiencing, it's all part of this growth. It's all part of this expansion. And I've not been able to get to this level of perception and understanding and have a deeper sense of, compassion for myself, my younger self, and how they've just learned to cope and to survive over the years. I've learned to see, things differently on a collective level. And I can see how so many people out there are just doing the best they can based on, again, what they've accepted, being born into this world. That, that level has, again, it's constantly shifted to the point in where we are right here, right now. And so many people are just struggling to hold it all together. And the old ways of being are starting to fall apart because it's out of alignment. And this level of awareness is expanding more and more. And as we expand to that, what's out of alignment is like, it's falling apart. You're seeing more conflict. There's more things that are playing out in the physical, in a physical sense. But there's things happening on an energetic level on the planet right here, right now, through the solar activity that is contributing to the shift and the change that we're all going through on a human collective level. And so many of us are going through so many changes. Not only physically, we're going through a lot of changes. We're noticing a lot more symptomatically in our bodies. We're noticing a lot more. And it's all part of, to get us to start to take notice of that, to start to go within our own systems and to start to learn to slow down, learn to bring a little bit more peace and stability from the inside, because on the outside, things seem to be speeding up. We're being asked to do more. We're being asked to do far more beyond what so many of us can really handle right here, right now, because there's so much that is playing out and so much uncertainty, so much anxiety, so much that, that is making so many of us feel so insecure. That's making us feel like everything's falling apart. But what's really happening is, because we're noticing this shift, this change, those of us who are more deep thinkers and feelers are more in touch with what's happening and realize that it's all part of this change that we're all going through on a human collective level. And it needs to happen in in the way it is, because it's bringing more awareness, and it is shifting that perception on the planet, because the more that we start to notice playing out, systematically in the world, and we start to notice what's out of alignment, and we notice when people are, reacting. We're noticing that people are not being authentic. We're starting to notice a lot of this playing out in the world, and it's because we're becoming more attuned to deeper aspects of ourselves, which then means what we notice through others, what they're mirroring to us. We notice when things are coming from a place of fear and insecurity, and people holding themselves back, and again, we notice a lot of surface level things playing out, and a lot of us who are those deep thinkers and feelers, we have a deeper sense of connection, and also that means that we are also struggling a lot more on the planet, and for myself, like, it's been like it's almost like I wake up every single day, and it's like I'm waking up in hell. And when I go to sleep, I get to close my eyes and have a moments of peace and rest. It feels like now I can take a breath, and now I can just let go, and I can just let my soul not only start to heal me, not only start to bring more life force energy into my being. I can have a moments of rest, and wake up the next day feeling like I can keep going. And this is the raw, honest truth here on just how challenging it is, because right here, right now, is I know the importance of sharing my perspective. I know the importance of talking about things on a more deeper level, and challenging the norm on what society has or accepted as reality, accepted as this is just the way it is. I'm here to challenge that. I'm here to challenge that in this world, because as someone who experiences the world in depth as I do, I need to mirror to other people what's out of alignment. And this isn't normal. What's happening in the world isn't normal. And we can't just accept what is playing out in front of our eyes. Yes, we can't control the things that will continue to play, but what we can do is we can start to shift our awareness within our own systems, and learn to bring more harmony and peace from the inside. Because the more we take back our peace, more we take back, and the more we connect with deeper aspects of ourselves, the more we can bring ourselves back into a more regulated state, the more we can start to get ourselves, expressing ourselves from more of an open and authentic place. The more we stand in our truth, the more we start to mirror that to, people around us, family, friends, in workplaces. The more we start to question whatever is playing out in front of us, the more we stand in our truth, stand strong in our truth, the more we will contribute to the collective shift that's happening on the planet. And so this is why, I wanted to share and to go more in depth in this episode. And if people aren't starting to connect the dots and realize that reality goes far beyond the physical in what we just see playing out in front of us, if people aren't starting to connect the dots and realize that, everything is energetic, everything is connected, and everyone is affected on this planet based on what is playing out right here, right now. And I'll share something with you over the past week on what I've noticed is it's been such a struggle for me, because I felt a lot of heaviness in my heart. I felt a struggle in, feeling more regulated this week, and feeling really drained, feeling really flat. And it's been a struggle to keep going, keep functioning on that level. It's been difficult for me to keep doing the things each and every day And I realize it's not me. It's based on what is playing out on a collective level. Is I'm picking all of this stuff up through my nervous system. And it's not a coincidence because we're all deeply connected. Everything's intertwined and connected subconsciously. And that also means that we're all affected. And those who are planted here like seeds, who are here to anchor in this change on the planet, they are the ones who are anchoring more of this light coming from the solar activity. Like we are like pillars to anchor in this change that also comes not only through our tone, in what we project out through our tone and our authenticity. When we actually go within and start to connect with more deeper aspects of ourselves, we're actually anchoring in more of our soul's light and energy and frequency. And this is part of the shift that's happening through the solar activity that is playing out. There are times when this activity is heightened a lot more, and that is part of why we're going through so much change right here, right now. And that's why part of why it feels like everything's on fire on the planet. And there's a lot more instability, and you notice that through a lot more earthquakes happening out there. There's a lot more, things that are happening out there that are just not normal, right? All of these things are based on this change we're going through, and that is because we're all connected. Everything is connected. So we've got to start to learn to see things far beyond what we can see, and start to really open up that connection to allow our own souls to anchor in the change that we came here on the planet to go through as a collective. There needs to be anchor points, and there's millions of people millions and millions of people on the planet right here, right now, and more people that have been born onto the planet that are here to anchor in this change. It's all part of this shift, part of this change. It's all part of this human evolution that we're going through, and it will continue. And I know I'm going far in depth here, but this is really important that I allow myself to be in the flow and just whatever wants to come out through me in these episodes, because it's really important that I continue to normalize all of the change that we're going through right here, right now. And I'm telling you right here, right now, it's all happening to the benefit of humanity, even though it looks like the world is falling apart, even though it looks like it's the end of times. And whatever you believe in, it is part of this shift we're all going through. And it's so important that you learn to start to shift that perspective on how you see yourself, how you see this world, how you see others, and learn to have not only, learn to have more empathy, learn to have more compassion for others, learn to hold space for each other. And that starts with you learning to do that within yourself, because if you can start to do that within yourself, you're going to start to be able to hold that space for other people in the world, because that's what we really need right now. Is we need to have breath. We need to hold space for each other. We need to stand together as human beings and learn that we are all doing the best that we can based on where we are right here, right now. And it's so important to have that connection in the world that feels so disconnected right here, right now. We need to, we need to rely on community. We need to really find your people who get you, people who can hold space for you, people who understand you in the depth of how you experience this world. And this is what I want to continue to create, through this community. And I want to continue to expand on this and normalize all of these conversations, because this is the very beginning of where things are going to go in this space. And I don't have all of the answers as a human being, but my soul knows. My soul has a plan for me. My soul has a plan for anchoring in this change in the world. And I've got to follow that, even though I don't have all of the answers right here, right now. This is part of the change that I'm also going through. on a human level, and I've got to let that, you know, I've got to let that progress in the way that it is. I've got to let it unfold in the way that it is, in the most imperfect way, because that is me being authentic as a human being. That is me, sharing the real truth on what it's like to experience the world right here, right now, and what we're going through. And I know there's other people out there that are going to feel more seen, more heard, more understood, because so many of us feel so misunderstood on this planet and feel so alone in what we're experiencing moving through on this planet. And I really just wanted to, to speak directly to that person who's feeling all of this, who's feeling the weight of all of this right here, right now. You're not alone in this. And so let this podcast be that space for you to start to, go on that pathway to connect with that deeper aspect of yourself. And I encourage anyone who's listening to this to join this community, to share my podcast with others who that will deeply resonate with all the things that I'm talking about, because I want to know how other people are, what they're experiencing right here, right now. I want them to be courageous, and I'm holding space for them to share their perspectives on what they're experiencing, what they're moving through. I don't have all of the answers. This is only my perspective based on where I am here, right now. And I might be deeply empathetic and understand things in a more deeper level, but that doesn't mean it's the only perspective. There are many different perspectives and experiences that we're all going through collectively. And so let this be that space, for you to finally share your voice, share your tone, share whatever wants to come out through you right here, right now. This is what I want to continue to build and to expand from. And, let this episode be that anchor point for you to do that. If you're liking this episode, you'll love our free masterclass, Unmask Your Relationships. Unmask Your Relationships is for anyone who craves deeper, more fulfilling relationships, especially if you're a highly sensitive person or people pleaser. In this training, you'll discover what's holding you back and learn how to actually break free from people pleasing and validation seeking. Understand why you attract certain people and situations into your life, and start to identify and transform the parts of you that hide behind your ego's mask. And this training is absolutely free. So watch it now by going to innermagicacademy.com/unmask. Okay, so I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but this is what I'm allowing myself to do throughout this podcast, is to continue to expand and let myself be in the flow. So what I wanted to bring your attention back to right here, right now, is the importance of starting to question the norm in what we've accepted in society, right? Because at some point, something begins to shift. You start feeling like something about this isn't right, begin to notice patterns, behaviors, emotional states, and you start asking deeper questions. This is where awareness begins, but this is also where things feel uncomfortable, because once you start questioning reality, you can't go back to not seeing it. You start seeing patterns everywhere, in people, in conversations, in the way the world operates, and that can feel confronting at first, because like I've been mentioning often, that little tangent is we're experiencing a lot of conflict, a lot of confrontation in the world, because that is part of the shift, part of the change we're all going through. We're noticing more, right? We're noticing more in people. The conversations aren't the same. The way the world's operating, we're noticing things a lot more. It's not people are struggling to function and do things in the same way that they've always done it, right? And that's because those old ways of being are no longer aligned, and we're starting to feel and sense that on a more deeper level. And so it's hard for us to keep walking that same path when it's out of alignment, when it doesn't feel right. So, there's two ways we experience reality. The seen, so what's happening externally, what we've been told, what we observed, and the unseen, what we feel, what we sense, the emotional and energetic undercurrent. And this is where things start to deepen, because a lot of people are only tuned into what they see, right? But if you're someone who feels deeply, if you're someone who, you will start to notice that there's more going on. There are days when things feel heavier, where your energy feels off, even when nothing has happened directly to you. And I've felt this recently as well. Like I've been going off on this little tangent. I've been feeling the heaviness, particularly over the past week. And it's easy to internalize this. It's easy to think something's wrong with me, but sometimes what you're feeling isn't just yours. What we're feeling and experiencing, for us who are deep feelers, deep thinkers, who are more in touch with what's happening far beyond what we can see, we're noticing that it is a lot more heavier. There's a lot more, we're a lot more agitated. We're a lot more impatient. We're getting a lot more angry. We're getting a lot more frustrated. We're getting, it's like we can't continue to mask and hold ourselves back. So many of us need an outlet to express ourselves. This is why I do this podcast, because I'm able to share my perspective. I'm able to move energy through and let that get in the flow and let that come out through my voice. There are periods where everything feels more intense. So this is emotionally, mentally, even physically. You might even notice people are more reactive, more overwhelmed, more irritable, and this starts to surface, right? So what starts playing out through the heightened activity we're experiencing through the solar activity, what it's actually happening is it's bringing things up beneath the surface for us to face as a mirror, for us to process and to move through. And when things are intensified through that mirror, it's very hard to ignore. It's very hard to try and escape, to want to run away from that, because what is happening right now is there for us to face, and we have to learn how to go within and learn to meet that, from a deeper place, learn to go beneath the surface and learn to expand and meet that through our own heart, and learn to see ourselves beyond, things that are playing out through this from this reactive place, from a place of fear and insecurity. Instead of seeing that as something going wrong, what if something's being revealed, right? And it's coming up beneath the surface for us to finally meet, to finally witness, to finally, to learn to see and hear deeper aspects of ourselves that are crying out for our attention, that are crying out for our love, that needs to come from an unconditional place. And we need to learn to hold space for that, to finally breathe, right? And to finally start finding that courage to so they can express that through us. And that is how we learn to step more into our authenticity, right? It's going to be messy. It's going to be uncomfortable. But it's going to come from a tone that is authentic and speaking truth, right? Because when things rise to the surface, they're asking to be seen. And the more the more aware you become, and the more aware you become, it's not just about having that awareness. You need to learn to, because we're conditioned in this world, we learn to see love through a conditional lens. Whatever was mirrored to us, whatever our younger versions of us learned to, whoever they learned to be, thinking that was something wrong with them and they need to change something about themselves, we need to start to learn to meet those aspects of us that are rising beneath the surface from an unconditional lens. And where do you think that is coming from? That is coming from your soul, right? Your soul is able to really bring those fragmented aspects of yourself, right, back to the love and the wholeness of what they already are. And that is you embodying, right, and bringing them back to the light, to that true frequency that your energy is coming from. And what do you think happens the more you do that? The more you the more you shift, the more you evolve, the more you know yourself on a more deeper level, the more you start to break these old patterns, these old ways of being. And this is all part of the change that we're going on the planet. Like I mentioned, it's very uncomfortable in what we're going through. And so we need to go through this change, and we need to face that with more courage, with an open heart, speak that deeper truth, as uncomfortable as that is in your life, through your relationships, in workplaces, whatever it is. It's so important for you to be more honest, to be more open, and stop trying to please others. Stop trying to, you know, hold yourself back. You're here to be all that you already are. And so, you know, those deeper aspects of you can finally, free another piece of their heart. This is you healing your inner child. This is you stepping into who you're always here to be on the planet. This is you coming back home to yourself, and you're learning to do that in this physical reality. You're learning to, embody those aspects of yourself, to bring yourself back into alignment from the inside out. And this is part of the shift that we are all going on. And we've got to continue to meet that with an open heart and with an open mind. Okay, so this is just going to reiterate a lot of the things I was just discussing there. The moment you become aware, you create space. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin to observe. You ask, is this mine, or am I picking something up? And that question alone, it changes how you move through the world, because awareness brings you back into alignment with yourself. This is what we're here to do, right? This is part of the collective shift, the change. It starts you going within yourself, and you're learning to shift that within yourself. You're learning to expand and meet those deeper aspects of yourself. You're learning to hold space for that, because, I know I've mentioned this a lot throughout this podcast, is when you learn to hold space for those deeper aspects of yourself that continue to arise, what you actually do is you learn to see and meet that through an unconditional lens. And that is what you're doing through that, is you're bringing those deeper aspects of you back into alignment with the mind of your soul. And through this process, as more of the solar activity hits, you anchor in more light, and you're basically rising, right? You're rising to the true frequency of your soul. You're actually anchoring in that in your being. And this is part of why you're an anchor point on the planet to create this change, because we're all beings of light. We are all here to try our best to shift and evolve this planet. And it's going to continue to go for this change, whether we're ready or not. And so we need to learn to face that, right? And the more resilience we build, the more deeper compassion we have for ourselves. Because if there's one thing that I've learned throughout this journey, is I have even more compassion for myself, not knowing that I was an deeply sensitive autistic soul. Until the last couple of years, I spent most of my life thinking that there was something wrong with me in the way I experienced this world. And I thought that I was failing as a human being. I was failing and not doing enough. And so that did play on those deep core abandonment wounds. And I struggled embodying my true authentic power, the wounded masculine energy that I carried for most of my life. I'm learning to embody, I'm learning to embody a balance of a healthy masculine and feminine energy. I'm bringing these in alignment, and I'm learning to now be that more of that out in the world and take action. And this whole journey right here, right now, is about building this community of souls who are in resonance with all the things I'm sharing and talking about. And I know this is part of why I'm here, is to continue to expand and allow this to grow, right? Like that seed that's been planted, I'm now here to let that grow. And expand, and it's going to help heal this planet. It's going to help you know, shift others, shift their own perspective, and help them heal, evolve, and step into the most authentic version of themselves. I want you to take a moment to reflect on this. What have you accepted as normal that doesn't actually feel right to you? And have you been feeling things lately that feel bigger than your own experience? So you don't need to have all of the answers, but awareness is where everything begins. And if something came up for you whilst listening, I invite you to share it, because this isn't just a space of me sharing my perspective. It's a space for connection. I'm here to expand on, and help meet deeper aspects of everyone in whatever you're experiencing and moving through. It's this deeper awareness that I'm learning to mirror something within yourself, so you can learn to shift things from the inside. You can learn to feel a sense of deeper connection. And this is exactly what we need on the planet, is connection. We need connection. We need authenticity. We need community. We need a shared space where, and this is one of the biggest things that have been coming up for me lately, is holding space, learning to hold space. Because in this world, we feel so suffocating in all the things that are playing out, all the things that we're experiencing and moving through. We can feel so alone in that. And so this is why, over the past month or so in particular, the things that have been coming through a lot is community, shared space. And so this is what I want to continue to expand on. So awareness is where change begins. The world may show you one version of reality, but what you feel, what you notice, and what you choose to become aware of, that's where your power is. This is the Inner Magic Academy podcast, and I'm really glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and give us a like or even a comment. It really does help so much in getting our work out there to the people who need it. We're so grateful for you being here, and we'll see you for the next episode.